Most of the time, we're going to be so pleased with Windows 10, there's not going to be major catastrophes, but in this nugget, we need to talk about such circumstances. It's recovery options. What are the options that we have to get back to some level of baseline performance when it comes to Windows 10? I created a hands-on lab for this nugget for you so you can go through with me and click along, finding the different areas that we can visit for various recovery options. Now, your other equipment manufacturer may have put in place a recovery partition on your system. The design of this is to boot from and be able to fix things if there's a major problem. You can actually have Windows get rid of this recovery partition and you can create a bootable recovery disk. This is a great idea. Check this out. We'll go into Control Panel together. So right-click the Start button and go to Control Panel. Let's go to our large icon view, and there is an option in here called Recovery. The very first option is to create a recovery drive. We'll say yes to the user account control. And what you would do here is say that you want to back up system files to this recovery drive so that it could literally be used to boot and run Windows and fix things. And then you would say next. We won't go through with this because we don't have a USB drive connected. The USB drive you would connect for this process would be at least 8 gig in size. Obviously, make sure your PC can boot from a USB device, and then you're ensured that this recovery drive will work. At the end of this wizard, if there is a recovery partition, this wizard will literally guide you in getting rid of that recovery partition, so you'll free up a bit of disk space. So this is the first feature that we wanted to cover, the ability to create this recovery drive. One more note about this feature, when you create one of these, it is architecture specific. So if you're on a 64-bit system and you create the recovery disk, you're going to need to only use it with 64-bit architectures. Now, the next type of recovery option that we want to discuss is system restore points. This is a really cool idea. So notice in our advanced recovery tools, the very next option is Open System Restore. When you come here, it's going to tell you, sorry, this feature is not enabled. Where do we go to enable this feature? Well, they give us a link. It's actually the system icon in Control Panel, and it's the System Protection tab. Notice for the C drive, this protection setting is turned off. So you would go to Configure in order to turn it on. So we would turn on System Protection, and then we would say, we want to make sure that no more than 20% of our disk space is consumed by this feature. Notice we can delete any existing restore points that might exist to free up space. So we apply these changes, and now we are being protected by this system restore functionality. Notice that we could create a restore point right now. So if your your Windows system is working perfectly right now would be a great opportunity to go in, choose create, give it a name, and create a restore point right now. This is one of the options for restore point creation to do it manually. We can do it here, and I'm going to cancel this because it takes too long, but we could do it here in the graphical user interface manually, or you could use the PowerShell feature in order to create a new restore point. So great, we have these restore points. If we don't create them manually, when are they created by Windows? Well, by default, whenever you install an application that triggers the creation of a system restore point, so the application developer would handle that, there's Windows updates that will trigger the creation of a restore point. There's a scheduled task for system restore, and we'll look at that when we take a look at the task scheduler. And you can obviously also do a system restore using the restore points, and that will create a new restore point for you. How you would do a system restore, by the way, would be to come into the graphical user interface or use PowerShell and run the system restore functionality. And notice we get an error message because there are no restore points for us to actually do a restore from. But the interesting thing about this is, what if you can't get into this level of the graphical user interface? Well, then you would do your restore to the restore point using the advanced startup options. And let me bring that window up to remind you what that looks like. So a great way to get here would be to boot from that recovery drive, for instance, that we created a moment ago, fictitiously. You'd obviously create a real one. You could boot using that drive and go into the advanced startup options, and notice there would be the system restore option here that would allow you to do the restore without the requirement of booting into the sickly version of Windows 10 that you currently have. So definitely a cool feature, and by the way, not a new feature. We know this has been around for a while. Let's do this. Let's cancel the system properties window here. Notice, by the way, there's this system restore button. This is going to bring us to the same place, allowing us to manage restore points and things of that nature. So now what we're going to do is take a look at this option. If you're having problems with your PC, go to settings and try resetting it. So now we're brought into settings and we have these options. Notice one of the options is to get to that advanced startup screen I showed you a moment ago. So that's pretty cool. We can actually get to that from the graphical user interface with this Restart Now button. But this is the one that's super interesting. It's Reset This PC. This is so cool. You choose Get Started and you have the ability to reset, keeping your personal stuff, but stripping away the apps and settings, or getting rid of all your personal stuff, apps and settings. So this option right here is something that a lot of administrators love, dream about doing periodically. I have to admit, it's what I do with my systems. You see, what I'll do periodically, and on this production system I'm on right now, I realize I have not done it in a long, long time, my nugget making machine, because it's been so stable. But, you know, every 12 months, you might want to go in and reset your PC completely. You've got all your stuff backed up to the cloud, let's say, or some other backup, and you've got all your applications, media backed up. So you'll reinstall the applications you need, put back the personal stuff you need, and you have a system that's performing like the day you bought it. So these reset options, I need you to be familiar with. So there are plenty of recovery options when it comes to Windows 10, right? In this nugget, we saw how we can create that recovery image. That is a great idea. And then we saw that we can do restore points. We know we can launch Windows 10 and have advanced startup options. That would allow us to do things like a startup repair, by the way. And then we looked at the fact that there's a built-in functionality for resetting the PC. The big option is, do we keep our personal files or not during that reset? I hope you found this nugget informative, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.